Have you ever woken up one morning and realized you spent decades chasing the wrong thing? I'm 91 years old now, and there's one truth that still haunts me. It took me 51 years to understand something that should have taken 20, and by the time I realized it, 40 years of my life were already gone. Not stolen, not taken, just quietly wasted. And the scary part, most people watching this video right now are doing exactly the same thing. But here's the twist. When you're young, life feels like a long highway, endless time, endless chances. But when you're old, it feels like you blinked and the road disappeared behind you. Show slow footage of empty road at sunset. Let me tell you what happened to me. Because if you understand this now, you might save yourself 40 years of regret. When I was young, everyone around me said the same thing. Work hard, be responsible, secure your future. So that's exactly what I did. I woke up early, worked late, saved money, followed the rules, and for decades I believed I was doing life the right way. But here's the strange thing nobody tells you. The years don't feel long when you're living them. They feel fast, shockingly fast. One moment you're 25, figuring things out. Then suddenly you're 40, wondering why everything feels routine. Then 60 shows up like an unexpected guest. And by the time you slow down enough to think about life, you realize something terrifying. You were so busy preparing for life, you never actually lived it. And I wasn't alone. Studies and interviews with people in their 80s and 90 seconds show that their biggest regrets aren't about career failures or money. Instead, most regret neglecting relationships, not pursuing dreams, and working too much. In other words, they regret living life on autopilot. But my biggest mistake wasn't just working too much. It was something deeper. Something most people never notice until it's too late. For most of my life, I had a favorite word. Someday I'll travel. Someday I'll spend more time with family. Someday I'll learn that hobby I always wanted. But here's the dangerous thing about someday. It feels responsible. It feels patient. It even feels smart. But in reality, someday is just a polite way of saying never, because life isn't waiting for the perfect moment. Life is happening right now. Yet most of us postpone joy like it's a luxury. We delay happiness until after the promotion, after the mortgage, after the kids grow up. But when those things finally happen, new responsibilities take their place, and the cycle repeats. Researchers studying older adults found that over 70% regret not pursuing their dreams earlier in life, not because the dreams disappeared, but because time did, and once time leaves, you never get it back. But there was another lesson I learned much later, and this one hurt the most. When I was younger, I thought money was the most important thing. Security, stability, a comfortable life, and yes, money matters. But here's what I learned at 91. Money is replaceable. Time isn't. You can lose money and earn it again, but you can't lose 10 years and get them back. And when people reach the end of their lives, something interesting happens. Their priorities suddenly change. They don't talk about promotions. They don't talk about bigger houses. They talk about people, the friend they stopped calling, the sibling they argued with, the partner they took for granted. Many older adults say their biggest regrets involve relationships they didn't nurture or love they didn't express enough. And when you're young, that sounds obvious. Of course, relationships matter, but when life gets busy, you forget. You postpone the phone call. You skip the family dinner. You say, I'll visit next month, and sometimes next month never comes. That realization hit me like a train when I was 51. But the story doesn't end there, because something happened that changed everything. I remember the exact day. I was sitting alone in my living room. The house was quiet, too quiet. My kids had grown up. My career was stable. The things I once worked so hard for were finally there. And yet, I felt empty, like I had spent decades climbing a ladder, only to discover it was leaning against the wrong wall. Show slow shot of man sitting alone by window. That's when it hit me. Life isn't about building the perfect future. It's about experiencing the present, the laughter, the awkward conversations, the late night talks, the little moments you don't think matter, because one day, those moments become your entire life story. And when you're old, you realize something beautiful and painful at the same time. The small moments were actually the big ones. But there's still one final lesson I wish someone had told me when I was young. This one might be the most important. If I could go back to my 20-year-old self, I would say only one thing. Be brave enough to live your own life, not the life your parents expect, not the life society praises, not the life that looks impressive on paper. Your life, because fear quietly controls more decisions than we realize. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of looking foolish. So we stay in safe jobs, safe routines, safe dreams. But here's the irony. Most elderly people don't regret the risks they took. They regret the risks they didn't take. They regret the business they never started, the place they never visited, the love they never confessed. Because failure fades, embarrassment fades, but regret can last a lifetime. And when you're 91 like me, you finally understand something that young people rarely believe. Life isn't short because of the years. It's short because of how quickly the years pass. But before you think this story ends in sadness, there's one more thing you should know. Yes, it took me 51 years to realize all this, but once I did, everything changed. I started calling people more, traveling more, laughing more, worrying less about what others thought. And you know what surprised me the most? Life suddenly felt lighter, like I had finally stopped carrying a heavy backpack I didn't even know I had. And that's when I realized something powerful. It's never too late to start living differently, but it's always better to start earlier, because the earlier you understand this truth, the more life you get to experience. So if you're watching this right now, I want you to ask yourself one question, not tomorrow, not next year, right now. Are you living the life you actually want, or the life you think you're supposed to live? Because the biggest tragedy isn't dying. The biggest tragedy is reaching the end of life and realizing you never truly lived. I'm 91 years old, and if I could give you one gift, it wouldn't be money. It wouldn't be a success. It would be awareness. The awareness that time is quietly passing right now while you watch this video. So call that person, start that project, take that trip. Say what you need to say, because someday you'll wish you had started today. And if this story made you think about your own life, write "I won't wait" in the comments, and subscribe for more life lessons that most people learn far too late, because the next video might just save you another 10 years of regret.